illness, depression, bereavement, injustice, disappointments, temptations, and
what's up, everybody?
Relationship.
How you guys doing tonight? We're just waiting for like I said, we're just waiting for everybody to come in, and we're gonna get started.
Good to see you, Phil. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome.
Hey, Philip, thank you. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely, me too. Me too.
I purchased your book.
I'm just waiting for the go ahead, and we're gonna get started. I would encourage everybody to have your notebooks out, because we're gonna be talking about some equations and formulas and how they pertain to what we've been talking about for the past few weeks, which is real estate investing on a basic level, from the first way to do it to real estate securities, which is sort of like, well, you can go either depending on what you want to start, but either way, and then we're taking it a step further, how you can actually assess stuff in a sophisticated manner. It's how a professional would. So let's give it another minute, and then we're gonna get started.
Phil, do we need a proof of funds letter for any of this?
Proof of funds letter?
Yeah.
No. This here is just about, no. This is just about the metrics, just how to assess and analyze deals. And some of the more important metrics that people need to know. Properties.
It is not mad hard like a slap.
Good morning from Japan. Thank you.
Please write the hellos in the comments box, because otherwise everybody starts talking and it might turn into a mess. So I'm gonna begin shortly. But yeah, throw the hellos in here. What's up, everybody? All right. Okay, so let's just get started. Nat, are you there? What's up, everybody?
Oh, hi, I'm here. Welcome, everyone. I'm Nat.
Right. Beautiful. All right, so guys, I just want to say, number one, I want to thank you guys for joining this webinar series. It's a really important mission of ours to to spread this information. As some of you may know, you may have seen it, or maybe you haven't, but I was born in another country. I don't even use the system of measuring that you guys do. To this day, don't know what a square foot is. I just know how it relates to money. So I started with less than nothing, basically no social security, no money, no way of making money, no bank account. And a few years later, I'm running a portfolio, literally sharing with other people how to do this stuff. It's kind of crazy, really. But it just goes to show that, and there's one thing I always say, is that building wealth and money isn't a matter of privilege. It isn't a matter of being born on the right side of the track. It's not a matter of genius. It's not even a matter of being that particularly talented. It's a matter of basically 7th grade math, which we will see today, and a rule set that is taught. It's not taught in schools, really. It's just something that if you have it in your family, you pass it along, and then you're around other people who know it, and then you have a better starting point for when you talk to the financiers, banks, investors, things of that nature. And that's just like I said, wealth is a function of a conversations around the dinner table. I'm just trying to change that. So I'm really happy you guys are here. I'm happy you guys are taking the time. You could be doing so many other things. I would like to thank Tiffany and her team for bringing me on board to share this with you guys. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'm very, very happy to share, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So yes. So like I would say here, the way we're going to do this today is I'm going to share my screen, because it's the title, the theme of today's lecture, if you will, today's webinar is 5 metrics or formulas that every new investor should know. And the reason why I want to share that is because it's part of that rule set and that 7th grade math and where they come together. So I want to run down 5 of them, but obviously each could actually be their own episode, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk it through in a presentation, each one of them. Make sure you take questions, because after I go through all 5, I want to take questions from you guys about how to use them, or whatever questions you may have about how to apply them if you were to approach a real estate deal. I'm going to use, once we turn off the screen sharing, I'm going to use the whiteboard just to show them, if need be, how they're used, and hopefully you guys can go out there and put them into effect. That is my objective anyway. So you guys ready? Yeah, everybody ready? All right. Just take a sip of my water. I just saw this random question where they could see the past 2 webinars ago question. They're on my Facebook, and they should have been sent out to everyone. So just check your email. Nat, if anything, after the show, maybe we can send all 3 again, just so people have a recap.
Yeah, we'll do that. And also eventually, Tiffany's team is also going to have a page where you can watch the videos over.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, spectacular. Let me pull up the screen. So if you guys are ready, make sure you have a pen and paper. So we're gonna get started. Nat, can you activate screen sharing for me, please?
Oh, it's right at the bottom.
Yes, but it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yes, I'm pulling it up here. Yes, excited from Florida, Arizona, Virginia Beach. And do you want questions to go to the general chat or directly to you? If you send them to me, I won't see them because I'm busy talking. So Nat will be taking them, so just shoot them directly.
Just add them to the chat box and we'll be sure to get to it if we can.
Tuning in from Brooklyn, New York, Rhode Island, Japan, Atlanta, New Jersey, Las Vegas. All right, one was there. And guys, it's gonna be, we're gonna go right through it. The 5 most popular ones. And once you have them, my goal is always, whether I write stuff or whether I share videos, I want people to take the information, be able to walk into the group of friends and feel like the smartest person in the room. Yeah, it's a bit silly, but that's the objective. If anything, Nat, can you just share it on yours?
Give me 1 second. It's working. It just takes a while.
All right, people still coming in. But yeah, just if anything, you just pull it up, and then we're just gonna get started. From Trinidad and Tobago. One question is how to determine operating costs when purchasing property. That's part of the thing we're gonna talk about today.
Okay, you can try it now. It should be working.
All right. Yes, here we go. Do you guys see it?
Yes.
You guys see it? All right. Let's do this. Let's do this. Check this out. This is my Wealth Lab mask, by the way. Let's get rid of that. Let's get started. Okay, obviously, this is what you've seen. This is why we're here. Real estate investing explained. 5 important metrics every new investor should know. That's what we're doing. Is what we're talking about. Of course, let's run through it. We're on a mission to help this is an interview I gave in Forbes. We're on a mission to help 100,000 people of color become millionaires by 2030. This is why we do this. This is why I pump out stuff every day. And this is what our entire operation is based around. Again, like we talked about the past few weeks, it's worth reiterating. The number 1 driver behind the racial wealth gap is the absence of real estate ownership. And according to a study from Duke University, by starting to, because there isn't in minority communities, there isn't a culture, if you will, of asset ownership. By owning real estate, just that simple shift can reduce the wealth gap by 30%. So whether that's accurate or not, whether it's 40, 50, or whether it's 20, it's a significant factor. So, which brings us to today. Of course, 5 terms, metrics, every new real estate investor should know. Let's get right to it. Metric number 1, NOI, which is short for net operating income. So remember that term, NOI. It's one of the most important ones when you are dealing with any type of real estate investment. Number 1, when it's time to count your money, this is the metric. When it's time to assess and analyze a property, that's the one you got to look at. All right. This is the equation, the formula. gross rental income minus your expenses equals your net operating income. So what that means is, let's say you have a property with 3 apartments, a 3-family property, right? It's bringing you in $2,000 a month. It's bringing in $2,000 a month. Everybody please mute, please. Yes, it's bringing you in $2,000 a month. Now, that's not what you get to keep. You still have to pay your expenses. Once you've paid your expenses or subtracted those, that leaves you with your NOI, your net operating income. All right? And why is that important? What I just mentioned, but there's more to it. There's more to it. Of course, it tells you what you have left over once you've paid everyone. Meaning paid everyone, again, maintenance, taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna jump into later what the, please mute yourself, everyone, please.
Guys, to any of the schools that do
Nat, can you mute everyone?
We definitely want to see things.
All right, we're back. Okay, so we're going to go into what constitutes expenses a little later, but I just want you to understand how NOI works, okay? If you have any questions about the NOI, make sure you write them down, because after we go through this presentation, I'm going to break it down in however examples you would like. I will share exactly how it applies to that example. So we're going to have a few questions for each. So just make sure you have them. We're going to make sure we go through everything, but I want to make sure you guys at the end of this know all 5 and how they're applied to it. And when you go look at real estate properties, you can go, wait, what is this? What is that? Okay. So that's number 1, NOI, net operating income. The formula is gross rent, everything that comes in minus everything that goes out. What's left over is your NOI. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Number 2, the cap rate. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there was this movie called The Banker, right when the pandemic hit. It came out on Apple TV. It's called The Banker. It's with Nia Long and this guy, Anthony, and I forget his name, and Morgan Freeman. No, Samuel Jackson. Not Morgan Freeman, Samuel Jackson. Basically, it was a story about two black men from the 60s in LA that were real estate investors, and they had to hire a Caucasian man to go and negotiate for them so he could get all these deals. And what they would do is they would train the guy because he looked the part. They would train him. And one of the really memorable scenes from that movie is when they teach him the cap rate. So what is the cap rate? Okay. The cap rate, the formula for this is NOI, which is your net operating income, divided by the price, expressed as a percentage, right? And why is this important? The cap rate, here we go. The cap rate is probably the number 1 thing you want to look at when you go and look at a real estate deal, because it tells you a few things. Number 1, is it a good deal or is it a bad deal? Again, you use it to determine the yield. It's expressed as a percentage. You look at the NOI, what does it generate? How much does it generate in net income? The money you have after everything is paid, divided by the price. That percentage tells you how good of a deal it is. So you use it to assess profitability or the yield, which is everything you want to look at with an investment. 2, you can use it to determine a purchase price. Let's say with anything, your yield should always exceed your cost of capital. Write that down if you must. If you know this already, great. If you don't, write this down if you must. Your yield should always exceed your cost of capital. Let's say it costs you $1,000 in mortgage payments to have a property. What you make on it should be more than you pay your bank, right? Otherwise, you're bringing, like my father likes to tell me, you're bringing money to work. You're supposed to bring money back from work. So you don't want to do that. So that's what makes you go, wait a minute, does this price make sense? Let's say your cost of capital is 5%. That's what the bank will lend you. And the cap rate on a property is 5%. Just using a very basic crude example here. If it's 5 and 5, you don't want to do that. So you say, look, I want to buy this at a 7% cap rate. And right, remember the prices that somebody can set it is like, okay, this generates $100,000, this cap rate, therefore it should be priced at this. So it's like, no, I want it at a higher cap rate, which means a lower price. And that's how you can determine when you're doing your high level analysis, this is the cap rate I can pay for this. Okay, and it goes the other way, what you want to sell it at. So, and thirdly, another way you can use the cap rate is when it's time to sell or go to the bank and refinance. And once we use the whiteboard, I would love to show you guys an example of this in real life, in real time, how I did this with my first property, how we bought it at $750,000, and based on the income it was generating, the value was, once we leased it out, was substantially higher. Okay, so I want to use that as an example. But again, you use it to determine building value when it's time to sell or refinance. Again, let's say it's doing 100K, then you divide it by the cap rate. That is the average for the market. So that's the formula here, how you can use it to assess the value of a building. The NOI divided by the cap rate for the market. Let's say the cap rate for the market is 5%. That's how you set your price. All right. So this is why the cap rate is important. 1 is to assess yield. 2 is to determine what do you want to pay for a property. Or 3, what do you want to sell it at or refinance at? Refinancing, basically, it just means that instead of selling, you, let's say you bought something for $1 million 5 years ago. You paid some of the mortgage off. You now only have a mortgage for $600,000, just using raw numbers. Then you can go and refinance and put a new mortgage on for $800,000. Wiping off the old loan, leaving you with an additional $200,000 that you now can use for whatever you want to. It's also called a cash out refi. So conversation for another time. Just make sure you have the questions because I'll go into it. All right. Metric number 3, OPEX or operating expenses. Goes back to what we discussed before, how you find the NOI. Did you guys follow that? NOI is what? Let me see if there's some comments here. Just want to make sure people are getting me. Nat, make sure, what are the comments saying? Are the things making sense so far? Yes?
Yeah, we're good.
Good, fantastic. All right, and make sure you bump in if there's something that needs to be addressed really quickly. All right, metric number 3. Again, operating expenses, OPEX. That's how you usually have it in there. When you just, I'll throw up financial analysis, and if we have extra time, I can pull one up on the screen for those who care about spreadsheets and things of that nature. But let's just go through it here. Why is it important? Obviously, it's important because you always wanna, before we get to that, remember what I said, any investment or any business opportunity, it has to give you more than it costs you. If it does not give you more than it costs you, then it's a bad investment because you need a return on that investment, which we'll get to. But again, so you always want to make sure that your income exceeds your expenses. Otherwise, you have a bad business on your hands. So that's why that's important. You can determine that ahead of time a lot of times, or you can use a simple rule of thumb, which we'll get to as well. So what's included in operating expenses? Maintenance, repairs, property management, anything that has to do with, there's a couple other things, capital reserves, putting money aside for a rainy day or should the roof leak or whatever, which is things like that's called CapEx, capital expenditure, but things like this all goes under operating expenses. One thing, however, and this is one thing that I wasn't sure of when I started, which is why I included it now. Obvious question is, do my operating expenses include my mortgage? Because mortgage is money going out, right? No, it does not. It only is a function of the cash flows. So once you have your NOI, that's when you start paying off your mortgage. But this is why it's important. This is what it is, and this is what it includes. Again, once you know what your expenses are, you know how much you have left to keep, which is what you care about. A lot of times I talk to a mentor and a friend of mine who owns a multi-billion-dollar portfolio. He really helped me take my business from just like a mom and pop store, well, I suppose son and pop store, to a legitimate development company. And one of the things he tells me all the time, even though he operates on such a high level, he said to me, because we were talking about, all that fancy talk about percentage returns and this and that. He said, at the end of the day, you can't spend returns, you spend dollars and cents. So it goes back to this here. Once you know what your expenses are, you know how much you have left to keep. So again, one thing that you want to do is and a lot of times people say, what is a good cap rate? What is a good return on investment? And things of that nature. And what's a good, what's an appropriate percentage to assume when you go in and say, hey, is this too much? Are my expenses too high, too low? One of the pro tips you can use is just assume up front that half of your income goes to operating expenses. Is that high? Yes. Is that common for old buildings that require a lot of maintenance? Yeah. For new buildings, this is high. This is high. You can go as low as 25. However, if you go with 50%, anything below 50% is just like a bonus, almost like getting a bonus from your job. So just assume that if the numbers work when you're analyzing a property with 50% operating expenses subtracted from your gross rental income, basically all the rent you're getting in, then you're in a good spot. So just one thing to keep in mind, write this down if you must. All right, let's continue. Metric number 4, DSCR, all right? DSCR looks fancy, sounds fancy, looks like some real Wall Street stuff, but here's what it stands for. Debt service coverage ratio. It's like this, and this is one of these things that kill me with the banking industry and Wall Street when they try to make things more complicated than it needs to be. Because again, this whole jargon, all it does is it creates a form of, it's really just slang. It's really just slang, but because it's money, it intimidates people. So when you're outside of that slang, you go, wait a minute, this must be some really fancy stuff. But in reality, you can have your teenage cousins that have their own form of slang. You won't understand a damn word they're saying. And this is one of those things just for the finance world. So debt service, it just means, what am I paying the bank, right? So what is the ratio with which you can cover the debt you have to service? Does it make sense? That's all it is. How well can you pay your bills? All right. So the way you calculate that is you take whatever you have to pay a year and subtract it by your NOI, expressed as a ratio. With the cap rate, it's expressed as a percentage, for instance. OPEX expressed as a percentage. This here is expressed 1.2x, 1.4x, etc. The reason that is, a 1x ratio is the break-even point. So 1.2x is break-even plus 20%. 1.4x means break-even plus 40%. All right? Again, AKA, can you pay your bills? So, that's what they ask, right? So why it matters? Of course it matters. But here's the situation. Contrary to what a lot of people believe and think, banks do want to lend you money because they don't make money from not lending you money. That's number one. They want to lend you money. They just want to be sure they get it back. So that's number one. They do want to lend you money. That's what they make money from. And they definitely don't make money from foreclosing on you, because a property for you is an asset, but on their books, their business model is cash flow, like putting money out there and getting more money back. A property on their balance sheets is a liability. So they don't want that. All right. So number one, they want to lend you money. Just want to make sure that you can pay it. Two, how do they make sure you can pay it? They look at your NOI, which goes back to why you need to know it. Again, banks want to see that your property makes money after your interest payments before they want to lend you money, right? So that means is, okay, say your NOI is this much, is $2,000. They want to make sure that whatever your interest payments are well below that, all right? So that's what they want to know. So they have a vested interest. It's in their best interest that you make money. So just keep this in mind. This is why this is important to know, all right? Like I just mentioned, the DSCR of 1.2x is breaking even plus 20%. So this is typically the minimum bank requirement, all right? So if you're in the 1.5x range, when you look at stuff, you're in a really, really good spot. You're in a really, really good spot. Now, mind you, when you're doing an FHA financed property with up to 4 units, remember, you don't necessarily need to look at this that much. You could just be at 1x, ideally 2x, but in the living rent-free scenario, as long as you can live in your unit where you're required to stay for a year and break even, you're in a good spot. So, and one of the ways you could do it is just to calculate in there, what would you be paying if you were living there for rent, and see what the numbers look like. Either way, this is how the DSCR works. This is why it matters to banks, and this is why you should know it. So does this make sense to everyone?
Yeah, I think we're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good?
Yeah.
Sweet. People are grasping it?
Yeah, we've got tons of questions though, so we'll get to those.
There's a line there.
Oh, Someone's writing on the screen.
Please don't write on the screen because then I can't read it. Unless you're doing graffiti on my writing, like I'm Xing you, like a gang member. All right. With a healthy debt service coverage ratio, you will never be underwater. Underwater meaning, what do you guys think underwater means? Being, you know, not making any money. You're in the red. Everything comes back to is what you're spending money on making more money for you, or do you have to feed the beast? It either has to feed you or you have to feed the beast. Never want to do that. All right. All right. And with a healthy DSCR, you will never be underwater, and your property will always make you money. Here's a very important thing to understand. Now, people always ask, what about the financial crisis, the recession of 2008, 2009? Wasn't that caused by real estate? Yes and no. So there's one important distinction to make with real estate, is that the housing market, which are residences, people, places where you live. These things, while technically assets, don't make any money for you, all right? You have to feed the beast. If you lose your job, you cannot feed the beast. With an income producing property with 10 units, let's say it's bringing in $5,000 a month and you're paying $3,000 a month. Even if you lose a tenant here and there, you'll still be cool. You'll still be okay, all right? So that one's feeding you. You're not feeding it, all right? So that's an important distinction to make when you break down the housing market. The housing market also, the value of a house is totally dictated by supply and demand. Let me repeat that. The housing market, those houses, the value of those are derived from supply and demand. Supply and demand are, by all intents and purposes, are emotional metrics. Like, you see other people buy something, you run behind it, and that drives demand. You know, things like this. It's really tied to emotion, which is never a place you want to be. Which is why the stock market can be so volatile also. Again, over time, it tends to go up. However, in the interim, you get a lot of because of the human element of emotion that dictates supply and demand. With income producing property, which goes back to NOI and the cap rate, the value comes from the income that it generates. It is not a house, it's a business. So the value comes from the income that it generates. So you always want to remember that. And with residential real estate, for instance, there's very predictable demand. There's very predictable revenue, which is why you'll never get those crazy Bitcoin type spikes. But you will know that over time, it will continue to go up. Which is why it's the cornerstone of every generational fortune. It's a cornerstone of every generational fortune. It's not going to go, again, it's not like cannabis or some crazy tech company or one of those biotech companies that go public, that hit the public markets with $0 in revenue, but that may have a corona vaccine. It's not like that. It's just slow and steady wins the race. All right, so with a healthy DSCR, just to make sure that the context is there, you will never be underwater and your property will always make money. When people get in trouble, is commercial real estate recession proof? Again, yes and no. If you leverage, meaning put too much of a mortgage on your property, that's the only time you'll get in trouble. Because why? You won't be able to meet your DSCR. If you don't meet that, and this is right now what's happening to office properties, retail properties like malls, and hotels. Because there's no travel, because there's no shopping, because no one is in the office, they're not getting any rental income. Therefore no NOI. However, they still have their mortgage payments they have to meet. So this is something that is really out of their hands, but that is how people get in trouble with commercial real estate. Events like that are really totally crazy. All right, makes sense? We good? Let me get some water. How are we doing that?
Good, we've got a lot of questions.
Okay, all right, because we'll do the last one, then we'll take the rest of the time to answer questions. And okay. I want to make sure when we answer the questions, let's keep them to what we're discussing here. And if there are any questions outside of that, just put them in the comments below and I'll try to answer. But for this, let's stick to this here so we can really hammer this home so you guys can walk away from this investment series as with a really good foundation for what to do next if and when you decide to go into real estate. Even with a very basic acquisition like an FHA finance mortgage property, where you really just need to make sure that you're not spending more money than you would renting, all right? So return on investment, ROI. Take a look at that one. That is very, very important. All right, ROI. You guys have all heard of return on investment. It's something that's become embedded into everyday discourse. What's the ROI on this here? It's something we use colloquially amongst us on the team sometimes. What is the upside on this? And it's something that can be used in a number of ways for real estate or any investment. It's a very important thing, obviously, to look at because you need to see how your investment is going to perform over time. All right. So what does it mean? ROI just means if you invest $1, what do you get back? Make sense? If you invest $1 and you get less than that back, then you have a negative ROI. All right. Let's say, where did it go? Here we go. All right. In real estate, however, I just want to make this point. There's different ways to measure ROI. Remember, the cap rate is one such way. What is the annual yield? Then you can look at the internal rate of return. That's what the sophisticated Wall Street folks use. That just factors in how much is the property going up over time, plus the cash flows you get from rent, and then it compounds it into one return metric. That's one that's a little more sophisticated. Then you have something called cash on cash returns, which means, okay, if I spent, let's say you buy a property for $1 million and you put up $35,000, that's cash. Rest is finance, that's your cash. Whatever you make back, you compare that to that $35,000 number. So there's different ways to measure that ROI, but the basic principle is the most basic form, which is $1 invested with a $2 return is 100% return on investment, or a 2x multiple, right? When returns get so high that they're no longer in double digits percentages and they're triple and quadruple digit percentages, you start using multiples. So when you look at real estate deals, and if you guys want, I can send a number of what I used to learn, some deals. I can send you some old deals from 2015, 2016 that they're probably long gone now, but that breaks down the things. And once you have this, they will actually make sense. Once you know these things here, these different terms. But at first, it's an excellent way. For me, it was an excellent way for me to understand the different variables. NOI, gross rental income, retail, multifamily, taxes, all this other stuff. How do they the interplay between different factors? And then when they talk about the return projections, because this is ultimately what you want to see at the end of the day, how well is this investment going to perform? And one thing you'll notice is that the 2x, they call it an equity multiple. If you put in $1 and you get this back, you 2x'd or doubled your return on your equity, right? So that's one of the things, equity multiple. And the multiples is something you actually see in business, period. If somebody has venture capital funds, for instance, they're fine with, their rule of thumb is we're going to do 10 deals, 9 are going to go bust, 1 is going to make so much money, 1 is going to be an Uber or Facebook that's going to cover the losses for everything else and make us all the money back. So they use the multiple there, obviously, because they need those type of high returns. But that is how you look at ROI. All right. So what's a good ROI? Let me see here. What's a good ROI? It depends. Generally speaking, right? Anything above 8% is an outstanding return. And that's really one thing that I've noticed that people go, wait a minute, what is that? If I put in $100, I get 8, that's nothing. I get that. However, 8% is strong simply because with an 8% return over the course of, how long is it even? I think it's like 8 years, you will have doubled your money. 7, 8 years, you will have doubled your money. So it's actually a strong return because it compounds over time, right? Such as, you may have heard of the story of the penny doubled for 30 days and how it turned from a penny into multiple millions. Nothing happens for the first 25, 26 days. And by day 27, 28, 29, you will have several millions. So there's a concept called compound interest. So when you see an 8% return, yes, you're not going to make immediate money. It's like I always say with the analogy of the tree. An investment is like planting the seed, watering it, trunk grows. From there come branches. From there come leaves. Then comes the fruit. And the fruit has to be ripe. And then you pluck it. But once you have that tree, it can feed you for eternity. Not eternity, but you get what I'm saying. So generally speaking, anything above 8% is an outstanding return. One of the things I saw recently, someone commented that, which actually was an 8% return, that he was going to make $1,584 on a $1,000 investment in 5 years. And he said, and keep this in mind, because once you understand it, you can spot somebody to know what they're doing and one that does not. And you can spot if somebody's trying to sell you a bill of goods versus somebody does not. Because anything above an 8% return is outstanding. So if they're talking about 100% or a flip, you can double your money in a few weeks. It's just nonsense, okay? All right, so he said, you mean to tell me I'm going to make $1,584 in 5 years? I can make that in a month in the stock market. To which I said, really? So you can make, because keep in mind, in 1 month, he was going to make that type of return, 60% returns in 1 month, which is like 700% annualized. So I said, you can make a 700% annualized return in a month. Can you give me a job? In fact, do you have a house of worship that I can come to and worship you? Because I need whatever you got. It doesn't exist. It simply doesn't exist. And there's a great way for somebody to spot somebody. It's like, oh, really? You mean to tell me I'll give you 1,000 and you'll give me back 10,000? No, doesn't happen. All right? Brings us to the end of it. So again, shoot in the comment section, shoot in the comments once we're done here, but I want to take it to the questions and I want to pull out a pen and then we're going to go over some stuff. So, all right, let me stop sharing here. Again, you guys should have it. We sent this presentation out so you can always go back to it and come back and ask. So here we are. I'm back. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, so let's start with the questions. The first question is NOI the same as passive income?
No, it's not. What you're asking is like, is Apple the same as apple pie? There's a correlation, there's a relationship there, but one is a dessert, one is a fruit. One is a dessert that's real, this analogy was better than I thought. This is a dessert, that's real sweet, based on the fruit, which comes from the seeds that you plant, see? So no, it's not the same thing. The NOI can exist whether you're actively managing the asset or if you're passively investing with somebody else. So passive income that just means making money while you sleep. So if you invest in a stock, for instance, that's paying you 10%, I'm just throwing out numbers, 10% dividend. So when you wake up, or, when you sleep, you're not doing anything for it to make you money, right? You don't have to feed the beast, it's making you money. That's passive income. Royalties, that's passive income. If you ever wondered why, we're gonna take a left field, but if you ever wondered why Michael Jackson stopped making good music in the 90s, it's because he became a billionaire from passive income. So, not from his own royalties, but from everybody else's royalties. So because of that, there was no incentive for him to work. So he would just ride his Ferris wheel all day. So that's passive income, all right? So NOI, yes, it is what helps you get passive income if you so choose. Okay. Does that make sense? Does that help? Can I get a thumbs up if that worked?
I think that works. But
okay. Perfect. All right, let's go.
The next one is, how do you calculate mortgage into a net operating income?
Again, net operating income has nothing to do with your mortgage. Net operating income has nothing to do with mortgage. Let's pull this up. You start here. In any type of financial equation, you guys heard of bottom line? The bottom line is this. The bottom line means profit, because at the bottom of the financial statement, when everything is subtracted, is when you have what's left over, right? Top line is called revenue. So on the top line, you have rent. Now, can you see this? Yeah,
we're good.
Rent. You actually call it gross rental income if you want the abbreviation, which is rent, all right? No need to make it tougher than it is. So this is what comes in, operating expenses, NOI, all right? Let's put some numbers to it. 2,000.
Just try to darken the text a bit. It's really light.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because this building likes to get these pens from hell. All right. NOI here.
There we go. Much better.
All right. Fantastic. OPEX here. Remember, OPEX is one of the metrics we discussed. Operating expenses, maintenance, everything, except for the mortgage. All right. So rent here. Then you have $1,000 left in NOI. In corporate finance or real estate finance and corporate finance, they're not brothers and sisters, they're more like cousins. So what we call NOI over here is what you call EBITDA in corporate finance, or EBIT really. Earnings before interest and taxes. Interest is, of course, interest payments. So now if you take your debt service here, it's called DS. That's another minus, right? Let's say that's 500. Boom. Let's assume that in your OPEX, you have a property manager, so you're completely hands-off, all right? If you're completely hands-off, by the way, this is called your free cash flow. Free cash flow because, you know, the bottom line, the complete bottom line before everything is gone. So no, the mortgage doesn't have anything really to do with the NOI. They're just side by side, and then they come together to determine your free cash flow. If this is completely hands-off, then this is a passive income generator. But this is how it all comes together. You see how it's starting to mirror a financial statement?
Absolutely.
Yes, so that's how it is. Did that help? Please give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. No?
Just more questions.
Well, hit me with them then. Now let's clarify this one. What questions? Let's clarify.
Most people on here are just asking what's DS.
Remember, debt service. Let's just say mortgage. Mortgage. Remember, debt service coverage ratio. All right? So mortgage or your debt service. All right? What is debt service? Someone's asking what's debt service. It's your mortgage. What is, yes.
Okay. I think
Someone's saying, I have a mortgage now, just afraid of getting a second. I would be too, I think. All right, so what's another question? What else we got?
the next question is, what are your thoughts on using NACA to obtain your first investment property?
I'd rather not talk about that right now because it's not really relevant to the metrics that we're discussing.
Okay. Is 1.2x or lower a healthy DSCR?
No, it's not. Because remember, your break-even point is 1x. So you want to be higher than 1.2x. Your 1.2x is your minimum, right? Because they want you to break even plus 20%. They want you to make 20% off of their money. Because if a tenant moves, you have a cushion, so you're not in trouble the first month that a tenant moves. So the higher you are, the better. The lower you are, the worse, and they'll turn you down. Make sense? All right. We're actually pretty good on time, so we can take quite a few.
Can you do an example of a cap rate?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Good. Thank you. I'll do that right now. Okay. Let's get rid of this one here. One thing I can do is we had built this software internally where we just type in the numbers of an address and it just extrapolates all these numbers instantaneously. The reason I built this is because I knew nothing. So we had interns. I made sure I had interns that were like infinitely smarter than me. So I could like secretly learn. It turned out that I learned faster than they did. So I ended up having to teach them. So I just built this model so it would be intuitive. So I can send that out as a spreadsheet. I can send that out to people if they want. We can put that out so people can download if they're interested. So then it will make a lot of sense to you guys. Now, the cap rate. Let's say you have a property here. Let's say you have a property here. All right. Yeah, that one's good. You have a property here. Let's say it's 50 units in Fort Myers, Florida. That's Florida, right? Fort Myers in
Yeah, I think so.
So 50 units. Let's see here. Boom. You get what I mean here. It's a property. All right. 50 units, 50 apartments. Gross rent. Gross rental income is, let's say, 250. Let's call it 300. Let's keep the number simple. 300,000. Then you have your OPEX. Remember the rule of thumb of 50%? So we're going to put it at 150,000. All right? Your NOI, therefore, is what? What is your NOI net?
Net operating income.
No, I'm saying if the gross rent is 300,000 and operating expenses are 150, what is your net operating income?
Oh, 150,000.
Right. All right. Now on to the cap rate. All right, let's pull out a calculator here. Let's say that it's a 10 cap, right? It's a 10% cap rate. So how do we get that number? In fact, let's do it like this. 150,000 and you're selling it for 1.5 million. All right? You guys get this example. This is the building. Now let's do the cap rate. So 150,000. 150,000, the NOI, which is 150. Let's say the price is 1.5 million. All right? Pull out your calculator, take 150,000 divided by 1.5 million. If you want to be lazy and cheat, all you gotta do is remove the three. All you gotta do is remove the 3 zeros and just put 150 divided by 1,500. What's that number?
10%.
Exactly. So your cap rate in this equation is 10%. Make sense?
Yep.
Now, let's add some context and perspective. See, this looks so crazy and fine, but it makes sense, doesn't it? All these things here, but it makes a lot of sense. All right. Now, you can go, wait a minute, 10%. All right, that's a good cap rate. A 10% yield, you can compare it to a bond or whatever. Okay, this bond pays me 5%, this pays me 10%, da, 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 da. However, this is one way of looking at it. You can also look at it from the standpoint, let's say the average cap rate for Fort Myers is 15%. Now you're getting robbed, right? You're overpaying for it. The lower the cap rate, the higher the price, right? So let's say the cap rate was 6%, you definitely get robbed. Because let's say it was 5%, then the price is 3 million. Do the math. Let's say that it's a 5% cap rate. The way you calculate that, remember the equation from earlier. Take the NOI divided by 5%. Try and do that right now. What's that number? That's $3 million. So that's when you know that you're overpaying for it. So the cap rate is basically, someone is asking, is this the price of the property? The price of the property is the one that is listed for. So you take the NOI and the price of it, and this is how you figure out the cap rate before you actually buy it. All right? So, cool. So that's the way the cap rate works. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone's saying, can you do a cap
The
rate?
comments.
People saying yes?
Yeah.
Please send out the sheet. All right, cool. Okay, somebody said, I see property for 1.3 million, cap rate 6.909%, 5 unit in Atlanta. What rate should I buy to, I just hijacked the, I'm sorry. What rate should I buy it to make it a good deal? Again, it's all about context and perspective. One, what's the cost of capital? For me, being European, I have access to insanely cheap capital. That's a no-brainer deal all day because we can get mortgages at 1%. My father and my father's brother on separate properties, they have a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage for 0.5%. You know, it's actually absurd. So with that is, you see, what's your spread? Okay, it cost me 1% to hold this property, and I'm making a 6% cap rate. That's a 5 point Remember, 1 to 6 is 5 points, right? 5-point spread. So I'm like, that's a great deal. So you want to make sure if the one in Atlanta, number one, what's your cost of capital? Number two, what's the average cap rate for a property of that kind in Atlanta? If the market, it's just like when you're in the market for an apartment, right? If a 2-bedroom apartment in Buckhead is $1,500 and you see another one that's just like one you just saw, that's $1,700. Again, it's all trickled down economics. Then you go, wait a minute, something is not right here. I don't want to buy at that price. You tell them, no, I can get it for $1,500 over here. So if I'm going to do this deal with you, I need it for $1,500. So that's the same exact argument that you can make. You can go, wait a minute, I want it at an 8 cap. Then you just run the numbers. What is a purchase price at an 8% cap rate? Let's say that price is 1.2 million. Then you say, I'm paying 1.2 million. And that's how you can use the cap rate. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. They want the spreadsheet. All right. I'll send it out to you guys. I'll put together a digital folder because I was asked about it from someone. I had written a book a couple years ago, and I put some links in there that were expired. And I said to people to hit me up. I didn't expect too many people to read it, and I was wrong, fortunately. But so now I'm creating a folder for that. So I'd be glad to share that with you guys as well. With it has the spreadsheets. It has a how-to guide, how to use the spreadsheets. And now you have this information. It'll make a lot of sense. You can play around with it, and you can click a few buttons, and it exports. You know what? Should I pull that up real quick? What the PDF is? We actually did this with someone on our team. I don't want to call any names. With the property, and she used the model. Matter of fact, let's bring on Sherry. You there?
She is on.
Sherry, are you there? No.
You're mute.
Okay, because the thing is, she got pre-approved for a certain amount. Then she used the model and the PDF, and it gave her an additional $50,000 because it's like, wait a minute, the profitability of this property is kind of sweet. Let me just pull this up real quick.
Yeah, pull it up. I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, you guys want to see that?
Yes.
All right, let's see if I can find it.
Lots of please and thank you.
Oh yeah. This is an actual property that I bought. I used it for. All right. Hey, this is sweet. All right, let me pull it up. Okay. So this is what it looked like. It's called Property Investment Calculator. I'll send this guy out for you guys to use, and it goes 5 units. I actually own this building, and then we got the approvals to build something else, and let me not talk about that. So this here is actually, this is just dummy text because I'm just using this as an example. Deal summary, what it is it has the words there, so you just need to type in the stuff. Property details and strategy, all right? So.
Just slow down a little bit.
Well, that part of it was just words. It's not too important. This one here is monthly cash flow analysis. Remember what he talked about with the one we did up here? Look at this, gross income, right? Mm-hmm. Expenses, calculates that automatically. Your NOI is therefore this, right? Yes. Debt service, AKA mortgage, is this much. Your free cash flow. Remember we talked about there are different ways to articulate ROI, all right? Financial measures. Cash on cash return, 8.26%. Remember we talked about what's a good ROI? Matter of fact, what's an outstanding ROI? 8%, right?
Yep.
Gross rent multiplier, I wouldn't even bother with that ratio because it's just there for some jerk to feel like he's really smart. It's really nonsensical. Operating expense ratio, this is just OPEX expressed as a ratio. Remember, 1.2x means 20% above break even. So 0.25x just means 25%, all right? Debt service coverage ratio. Remember we talked about that one? 2.22x, sweet, all right? Then you have exit assumptions. What's the after repair value? What's the selling price? Exit cap rate, this is a bit low. Annualized return on investment, all right? And then we have this glossary in here. Cap rate.
Sweet.
Net operating income. Would this be helpful for you guys?
Yes. Everyone's yes.
All right. Operating expense. It's basically, you know what? I haven't seen this in years, to be honest with you. And I pulled this when I wrote the presentation. It's like almost like word for word. If anything, I'm consistent. All right, so this is the floor plans. So this is how that could look. So I could pull it. Nah, it's too much. We'll do that some other time. Like I'd have like a spreadsheet where you can type in the numbers and see how it works, but we can do that some other time. We're running short on time. What else you got for me? Hit me.
Okay. Question here is, can you use the cap rate scenario to explain operating expense and DSCR?
No, I can't. I cannot. Not because I'm incapable, but it's just not how it works. Remember, the mortgage has nothing to do with cap rate. Has nothing to do with the cap rate. All right. The cap rate is a function of the net income. The mortgage comes after you have the net income. All right. So that's just your cost of capital. So you want to make sure your net income exceeds your interest payments, but they don't cross. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
Yeah. The next question is, how do you get an idea of how much maintenance would be? Where do you look?
Like I said, just assume 50% and you'll be fine. Start from there. So maintenance. So usually you can get an idea when you look at a property. Should I do a real live analysis in real time?
That would be great.
All right, 1 second. All right, I'm gonna go into a page and I'm going to show you where to find the financials. Let's see if I can share the screen. I'm gonna do this in real time. All right, are you guys seeing my screen?
Yeah.
You see the screen?
Yeah, I see the screen.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's see. What are we looking at here? Let's go advanced search. Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go Atlanta, Georgia. Auction sales, pure filth. We're not going to waste our time with that. It's loading still. Here we go. All right. Property types. You can go here. You go property types. Ignore the auction stuff. It's not for you. Okay. It's for the it's for the people who already got stuff going on.
The vets.
Okay. Huh?
Is it for the vets, veterans?
No, well, not soldiers, but people with lots of money. Okay. So multifamily, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go, then we go units. See units here? We're gonna go minimum of 2, and max, let's go 8, just to keep the price somewhat manageable. Jesus, that's a lot. Let's pick any one of them. Here we go. 8-unit apartment building, 1.3 million. Is that the one she found? Could be. Now, here's where you find the financials. I'm going to show you where you can find. They should have it. Anybody that's selling it and that's for real has the financials in order. Okay? So I usually scroll down, off-market listing, financial summary, pro forma 2020. Okay, what that means is they're just guessing. So this is probably not a good one because they're just guessing. Let's pick another one. This wasn't good. This wasn't good. They're giving you what they say the financials can be, not what they are, which sometimes tips you off as to why they're selling. So let's see again. Multifamily, residential income.
Someone's asking, is this the pro version of LoopNet or the free version?
This is free. This is free.
Perfect.
This is free. This is for everybody. I wouldn't show you anything you would have to pay for. If you hang out with me, you make money. You don't spend money.
I like
it. Well, you know this to be true. You know this to be true. Let's not pretend otherwise. All right. Attachments. Here we go. Here we go. Are you seeing the screen still?
Yep.
Okay. Here goes the pro forma. Here's the...
It's loading, so there we go.
Oh, these are real. You know how I know these are real? Because these are prepared by somebody who could not care less about how it looks.
It's scanned, yeah.
This is probably an accountant to put this together. All right. Income, which is rent, GRI, gross rental income. He just calls it income. All right.
And how would you know if these financials aren't, are they real or if they're inflated?
Good question. They have to show the actual numbers. And if you ask for it, you have to show from, it's like, give me your accountant's numbers. If you feel like there's some skullduggery going on, if you feel like there's something don't smell right, you say, let me talk to your CPA. You know, you want to make sure, that's what you want to make sure you do, okay? Income, late fee, $130. Rental, just short of $150,000, right? Expenses, look at the expenses here, my friend. Advertising and promo, it's like, hey, I got an apartment for rent. Bank service charges, very good, this guy's thorough. Insurance expense, interest expense. Okay, you shouldn't have put that there, but whatever. That don't make no sense. Miscellaneous expense, repairs and maintenance, taxes, utilities, total expense, net income.
Wow.
All right, that's free cash flow. So profits and losses, See, the interest expense is there. The fact that he put that as an expense in his expenses, that's pretty bold. That means there's plenty of money. All right. So that's what it looks like. You can see what they are here. These are, I believe these are legitimate because they're so, so heinous looking. And then you can see what the property is like. Remember, price per unit, cap rate 5%, number of units, average occupancy. That is an absurd number, by the way. Nothing is ever 100%. Look at this. Check with your attorney to confirm, because along with my management and 100% occupancy, your new cap rate rises to 6%. Vacancy actually is supposed to go under your expenses. If I manage the property and you have 100% occupancy, the cap rate rises to 5%. So this is information, but if you read this, use this presentation as a reference point, and then you can actually see all this makes sense to you. Remember, loan terms, 4.43%, which is what? Remember, your cap rate has to exceed what? Your yield has to exceed your cost of capital, hence your loan, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Not willing to assume, we unfortunately won't have anything to talk about. Okay, it's a little much. I have no interest in listing the property with anyone. Okay, all right, that's it. I was with the person when they showed me financial until they started talking crazy. Then I was like, I don't have time. Anyway, but that's how the example works in real time. Make sense?
No, that was great.
Yeah? All right, what else we got? We're almost out of time.
How do you determine the cap rate for the market you're in?
You know what? Let's do this in real time. Why not? Let's do this in real time. Cap rate, New York. Matter of fact, let's do it Atlanta. I'll show you guys right now. Literally, you go in. You see, this is what people think is like really harder than it is. It's really not. It's a Google search.
So it's a simple Google search.
It's a Google search. However, you gotta know your sources. You gotta. If there's somebody that says I'mAJabroni.com or Entrepreneur Real Estate Investor or LamborghinisandHouses.com, you probably don't want to look at that source. CBRE is one. Let me see this now. Hey, I used to be the director of content strategy, largest real estate investment, largest real estate media platform out there. You just look at these here. These are brokerages that sell properties for a living, so they'll have the right numbers. Okay, so you can also go. CBRE is a good one. Let's check that out. I use that one personally, and there's a number of ways you can find that out. All right, CBRE North America Cap Rate Survey. Just make sure that you use the cap rate correctly. It's all about context and perspective. If you have what's called, buildings are typically broken into several grades: Class A, Class B, Class C. Class C just means crap. Class B is just like a B movie. It used to be. It's real, yes, but it's not like the creme de la creme. Class A is like a luxury building that was just built. All right. So let's see Atlanta here. You just type it in here. Overview. Okay. Why is it not coming out? They usually have these. Okay, let's check this out here. They usually have these interactive maps. Here you can see it. Office, suburban, CBD. And no, it's not the stuff you smoke. It just means central business district, multifamily. And then you can see here what it was at the time, 5.33, 5.3, you know, class A, B, C, suburban, so on and so forth. Make sense? So you can really, it's really just a Google search. And if anything, your agent, your realtor should tell you. Your realtor should tell you. They'll always be like, they'll make it seem whatever could incentivize you to buy more. So just subtract like 10, 15%, like, or 150 basis point from what they're telling you, but you know, whatever. All right, a few more questions and let's call it a night.
What is the interest expense?
Debt service.
How much should we calculate for vacancies?
Anywhere from 5 to 10%.
Okay. What's the difference between 20% ROI and 8% ROI? I've heard nothing below 20% and 8% is good. Which one?
Heard nothing below 20%.
It says I've heard nothing below 20% and 8% is good.
So what's the person suggesting, that the 8% is not good?
So what's the difference between a 20% ROI versus an 8% ROI?
12 points. But if you're saying you've never seen anything under 20%, how can I put this? You more than likely haven't done a real deal. Because these things simply, 20% is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Remember, 15% return is doubling your money in 4 years. Keep this in mind. A 15% return doubles your money in 4 years. All right? A 20% return ROI. That's, you know, and you got to factor everything into the equation. But 20%, anything, if you say you've never seen anything under 20%, that's just, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And you're probably being sold a bill of goods. And if you're not, I need to talk to you. In fact, I need to work for you. So, yeah.
One question from Facebook. Is it worth it to earn less on a property to stay in a specific tax bracket?
Well, if it's a property that's in an LLC, you're not making the money personally. And there's a number of ways where you can. So here's the thing with the REITs. Remember we talked about REITs last week? When we talked about REITs last week, one of the things that mandates a REIT is mandated to pay out 90% of their net operating income in dividends. Right? But here's the thing about REITs. They don't make their money, a lot of them, from the cash flow. I personally am not a cash flow investor. I couldn't care less. I'm all about the wealth hacking, meaning the value of the portfolio. That's how we were able to build it from starting with $850,000 to 8 figures in 2 years. Because we're all about beefing up the equity. But it's just a different strategy. Some just go by having a steady 10% yield. Let's say you have a property pays you $100,000 a year, and you have 10 of them. Now you have $1 million. All right. And let's say you're paying of that $1 million, you're paying $800,000 a year in mortgage, which is standard. Then you have $200,000. Now you got a sweet lifestyle, right? From 10 properties or whatever the case. So that's pretty sweet. What was the question again?
Oh, I lost it. Sorry, they're moving quickly. I lost that one.
Yeah, no. I was going somewhere with this, but yeah, it's. Is
it worth it to earn less on a property?
Yeah. I answered it. It's really just, it goes on your business books. And with a REIT, right? With a REIT, they make money in a way that's. Should I share about like liquidity events? So when they make money, they don't make money necessarily from cash flow. They make money by putting debt on their balance sheet. I'll give you an example. This is really how the billionaires make their money while paying 0% in taxes. Should I show that before we go? Like how the billionaires pay 0% in taxes but make billions?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Let's do it. And then we do one more and we wrap it up. We're over time anyway, but I just enjoy spending time with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy it too. Is this helpful?
We're getting a lot of yes.
Getting a lot of yes? Yes. All right. Yes. All right. That's a wrestler, brother. He goes, yes. Say you have a property here. Okay? You bought it going to give you an actual, my mentor, what he did. I'm going to show you exactly what he did. And this very same building, I kid you not, this is almost like, it sounds like Hollywood. This is the very same building that my attorney, that is the attorney for one of the most powerful people in the country. When I say one of the most powerful, it's probably top 5. And the guy that owned the building, he put me in touch with that attorney. And in that same building was the planning board of that city. 90% of the skyline of this city comes from that office. So I came in there, got together, and inside 2 weeks, my asset tripled in value. This is an absolute true story. I'm going to share with you why. Matter of fact, this is the building you guys saw in the presentation. So this is fun. This is crazy. Let me show you an example. This is what he did. This building was $57 million. All right, you guys with me? You with me?
We're good. We're good.
So bought it for $57 million. All right, it wasn't in the best of shape. It was a downtown office building.
Okay.
$57 million. Then put in $20 million in improvements. Improvements is exactly what you think it is. It's renovations, but just on a big building, right? Mm-hmm. It's a high-rise, office high-rise. Now they're in for 77 and change. Let's just use 77. Obviously, there's more cost associated with the transaction and so forth. They held on to this this was in 2013. The transaction is actually in the news, so you can go find it. If you can hit me up, I'll share the article with you. You can go look at it yourself. 77 million, right? So they used the mortgage to buy it, and then they got. Are you with me?
We're here.
Buy it. They put in an extra loan to fix it up. Then they sold it. But let's pretend they refinanced it instead, which most people do, which is what we're doing in the Temple. What we're doing in the Temple right now, I bought it for 112. We're using probably $900,000 to build it, and we're going to put on a mortgage of 1.5. That's a $600K spread. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
This is how you force the appreciation of an asset. This is how flippers do on a small scale. All right. They sold it now, 3 years later, for $101 million. $101 million. Now, had they refinanced instead, they could have put on a mortgage of, let's say it appraised at $100 million. They could have put an $80 million mortgage on it, which would have wiped out all of this, right? Minus 77 million and 3 million left over. But this comes in the form of a new mortgage. So on the balance sheets, it counts as debt. You understand? But this debt, they're paying a low percentage for. When you sell it, you have to pay capital gains tax, which could be like 30%. So you make the determination, do I sell one time now and pay 30%? Or do I refinance now and I pay 3-4% every year? I keep the property, I get the cash flows, and in a couple of years, I can refinance again. So when you see a REIT that does this, their money comes from when they refinance or when they sell, not from the operating income. So all that 90% of their income is to be paid out in dividends is really. But that's billion-dollar wealth hacking strategies. So
love that.
We should talk about some other time. It gets a little complex, but I figure since we're here, we'll do it. Take one more question, then let's call it a night.
Do you have any books that you can suggest to get up to speed on some of this?
I have one, now that you know these things, I have one. Mine is the best in the market. I don't want to plug myself. Mine is the best. But there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm not even saying this is the absolute truth. But it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There is one that's called let me show you. Should I just pull them up and show you? Because I have, okay.
And then we can just also include the links right in the chat box.
Oh man, let me just pull it up and you guys can find yourself. Okay, let's see here. Let me just find it. There we go. Aha. Let's see. I will share the screen. This is the one. I bought this for my nephew as well. The Complete Guide to Real Estate Finance for Investment Properties. This is the one that took me from just reading all the stuff that everybody reads, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all the books that you see in Barnes and Noble that are just like the same stuff over and over, presented in a different way. You don't really feel like any progress, so you just buy the next one and on it goes. This is the one that took me from, because like I personally like to be very efficient. Where are my deficiencies? Let's get rid of those blind spots. This is the one that took me from that to the next one. I'm going to show you one of those deals that I can also send in that digital folder, what they look like. So see this here, how to, let's look at the table of contents. This one is on Amazon. Like I said, I gave this to my nephew. Real estate finance, introduction to real estate finance, This uses slight borderline Wall Street jargon. But if you have it here, you just don't be intimidated by it, you will understand so much more. Like cost of funds. Remember, your yield needs to exceed your cost of funds. Remember that. It's always more. Money bring in should be more than the money going out, all right? Net income, return on investment. Remember we talked about this? Cash return on investment. Total return on investment. Net operating income. Capitalization ratio. Debt service coverage ratio. Operating efficiency ratio. Remember, it's just OPEX. How well do you manage your expenses? But it sounds fancy, doesn't it? Break-even ratio. Future advanced real estate investment analysis. I would recommend skipping that because you might just get deterred. Valuation of real property. How to find the value of it. This is a fabulous book. I might just read it just because. It was a great book. Let me show you one more thing. One of the deals that I looked at just to start nerding. This was one of the ones that made the most sense for me. And once I looked at this one, this is a commercial property, so it's not like an apartment building, but let's go for it anyway. All right, it's industrial investment, but let's go down to where the numbers are. So if you look at the highlights here, acquisition price, equity amount, that means the cash you put in, first mortgage loan, mortgage, total capitalization. Capitalization means money. There's two forms of money, equity and debt, all right? Basically, cash you bring to the table, the rest that comes from the bank. Loan terms, this and that, this and that. All right, so this is the deal. Let's go down to the returns. Once you start reading these, they'll start making a lot more sense. Blah, blah, blah. Here's just pitching the deal. Let's go to the returns. Again, acquisition, loan amount, IO, interest only, blah, blah, blah. Use of proceeds. Now you also know once you start raising money, what do you need? That's another thing that it does. Disposition analysis. If you dispose of something, that's a disposition. With a property, that means a sale when you make your money. So terminal capitalization rate, that's the cap rate. What's the cap rate at your exit when you sell it? This is what it looks like. And that's when you're looking at the terminal sales price. This is how you can assess the value of the property that you're either building or that you're looking to buy. All right? Investor returns analysis. Projected internal rate of return, 15%. Phenomenal, phenomenal. And it's in 3 years. So it's just under, remember we talked about multiples? The projected multiple, they messed up here, it should have an X, but whatever. The multiple implies the X. 1.87X means you're almost doubling your money. All right? Fantastic returns. Fantastic returns. Same here. This is with other assumptions, 14%. They sell it at this cap. Remember, we talked about different cap rates. If the cap rate is lower, the returns are higher. Cap rates are higher, returns go down a little bit. It's an inverse relationship, but always related. 1.25 cap rate, there's a higher cap rate, your internal rate of return, your annualized ROI goes down, and your equity multiple does the same thing. All right? So this here actually is a pro tip. This is a little too much. We'll talk about some other time, but your internal rate of return, your annualized ROI is 12.5%, but your overall ROI is 69%. So when somebody said 20%, yes, it is feasible. It's how do you look at it? All right? So you got to look at it annually. So that is it. I hope that's helpful. This is a little high level, but I can put that in the digital folder as well. And if people want to nerd out to this stuff, they can. That's what I did, and here we are. So.
And I've also shared the links in the chat, so just scroll up and you'll find it.
All right, but I'll put that digital folder together. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. You guys, this was good? You guys enjoyed? Was this helpful?
Yep.
Helpful? Okay, fantastic. Again, I just want to thank Tiffany and her team again for setting this up. It was a pleasure sharing this with you.
Absolutely.
I'm sure something will be sent out. If not, it replays on my Facebook page. Just throw questions. I'll respond. Every Monday and Friday, I read the questions that I didn't get to here, because we got, how many questions did we get, Nat? Thousands?
Like 1,000, yeah. Lots of.
Yeah, so it's impossible. And I know there's a lot of demand for this type of information. So every Monday, I do a video where I go, not do a video where we answer 10 questions. We do it Friday. So you always go back to that as a reference point. Anything else, just keep winning, keep crushing it. You guys are doing amazing from everything that I hear. You guys have a fantastic community, and I wish you guys all the best. And I hope to see you guys again soon. I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna play some music, and I'm gonna go home.
Some vibes.
So, thank you guys once again, and I'll see you guys next time. Let's see.
Are those the vibes?
And are weak. Are they playing? Why are they not playing?
Very weak vibes.
This is my money outfit, by the way. Money here, wealth flag here. You know what it is. All right.
He's so cool.
All right.
Need one of those masks.
We want one of those masks. It was given to us, actually dropped off at my place.
Can we buy those online?
What's the name of your book? Your book. What's the name of your book?
Mask online.
Do you have a fund we can invest in? Do you have a fund we can invest in?
Bye, guys. Y'all have a great one.
Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good night. We went a little. Hope it's okay.
Good night.
Hope it's all right.
Bye.
I hope it's all right,
everyone.
guys.
All right.
Like a
Because
party.
they unmuted everybody, so everybody want to start talking.
What's the name of
You need to go over that cap again. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. It was so helpful.
Está bien demasiado espeso.
Thank you.
Good night. Yeah.
Thank you, Philip. Let us know if you have a fund we can invest in. We'll just send you some money.
Go invest in the stock.
If she don't stop this.
What are the questions? I'm just going through questions.
I think he said go invest. She said, we'll send you, send you. She said, we'll just send you on that.
I'm listening. I actually think, Nat, the question is actually pretty good.
Very good questions. Are those the vibes? Yay!
Yeah.
Finally.
Michelle Diaz, can I make a suggestion? Go for it. Oh, someone said, where can we find a digital folder? We'll send it out. We'll send it out.
We'll send a recap email with all of
We'll
it.
send a recap. I'll send it out. I have to put it together. It's something I came up with today because I figured people might need it. You know, it's basically the stuff that I use for myself, and I'll just put it together. You know? How do we get the? Some links are not working.
Hi, I wanted to make a suggestion. Thank you so much. This is so helpful. Would it be possible maybe in the future when you do these presentations to add a little bit more, because you provide a lot of data and I'm trying to write things down, and next thing you know you're on the next topic and I lose some of the information. Maybe adding a little bit more on the slides and also slowing it down before going on to the next topic.
Yes, I'd love to, but we only have 3 webinars and we have time and spatial restrictions, which is why we just encourage for the questions to be asked. And then when I go through them, I'll try and do it as best as I can. So that's why I would love to do that, but I'm trying to cram like semester stuff into one, which I'm confident you guys can do. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Because I'm new to this and there's a lot of important data that you're providing, and having it in the slide and trying to write it down and remember everything. I lost a lot of information because of the writing.
What's in this, it was in the deck is everything I said. So if you understand what's in the deck, you understand everything that I said. And remember, you can always go back on a replay.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for coming out.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Please share the free website. That is loopnet.com. Can somebody post that?
Oh, hold on. Let me really say it right quick. Where are we supposed to watch the replay?
It'll be sent out. I think this link will be sent out, and you can watch it on my Facebook. It'll be replay right there.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining.
Someone's saying, "Are you taking trainees?" Just go on my Instagram. Just go on my Instagram. This game is not that complex. I was telling Nat and I were having a conversation earlier. And I was telling her about 2 people we know that are really, really smart that had a real estate startup and probably too smart for the asset class. Me, I'm not particularly bright, which is why it works for me. So, and I interviewed another guy who's built skyscrapers to be the, because I was looking for a CEO for our real estate department. And I'm like, this guy's not much of a thinker, which let me know building skyscrapers is not that very hard. But it also let me know he ain't working for us, that's for damn sure. I need somebody that's smarter than him, and he wasn't. So Facebook name is the same. It'll be sent out though. Real estate wealth hacking.
Yeah, just check your
email. The Keith Cameron books. Hey, let me pull that up. Why not? Bias. All right, let me pull it up real quick. We're just hanging out. I hope to see all you guys in person sometime. Some form of fashion. Here we go. Top 10 distinctions between millionaires and the middle class. Just vibing to some money talks. To some money talk. Fire. All right, here we go. Let's go down here. Let me show you the table of contents. There we go. This is sweet. I should do a video with a breakdown of this. Millionaires think long-term, middle class think short-term. Remember this. Millionaires talk about ideas, middle class talks about things and other people. You heard the saying, small minds discuss what? Average minds discuss what? Smart minds discuss ideas. So millionaires embrace change, middle class, da, 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 da. It's just very well written. So I really like this one. Let me show you another one. One of my favorite books of all time. This one. And here's a rule. If I can leave you with one takeaway that'll help you more than anything in life. Let me find it. By the way, I use this one as my filter to people who leave around me. I've developed the nose for it. But before I would use this, if they loved it, I'd be friends with them. If not, I'd change my number. Actually, no. I just say it directly. All right. Winners think big, whiners think small. He's very diplomatic, and he calls it whiners. Really, what he meant to say is last placers. Let me see here. This one here. There's 2 challenges in this book. Let me see if I can find it. Basically, he talks about 2 challenges. One is about not complaining, and another one is listening. Let me see. Whatever. I'll take an excerpt and I'll put it in the email. So you guys have everything. So until next time, let me get up out of here because the computer's dead. It was a pleasure. Till next time, I'm out of here.